This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo. All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Woo-wee, something's cooking. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Why is having 2 dispatch services in the headlines? The goal is to have 1 dispatch service for police and fire, according to Poland Township trustee Eric Ungaro. Now, according to the article published June 16, 2022, the Austin Town Dispatching Center currently handles Poland Township's fire calls, and the Borman Dispatching Center dispatches Poland Township's police calls. Now, Ungaro cited delays when one township has to contact another as the reason. So they're saying that's the delay problem. Now, the decision now falls in the hands of Sheriff Jerry Green, Police Chief Todd Worth, and Austin Town Police Chief Bob Gavalier. So that's what got this story in, and that's why it made it in this week. Big help. Story number 2. What difference will cameras make? Liberty Police are now on the camera bandwagon, folks. Trustees have entered an agreement with Flock Security for the cameras, which will cost $17,500 for the first year and $15,500 for the second year. Liberty Police feel that the cameras will be used for investigative purposes, but continues to stir the pot on how far officials can go to uphold law and order. Cameras have been a major scale tipper in the growing debate between how police interact with the public, and somehow has flooded major headlines with news about racial strife as well. So police cameras have had a lot to do with the racial strife solutions. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. How prepared are local schools against threats? Recent news about arming teachers and new pressure being applied to school safety has now got the attention of the local community. It is good to note that some local districts have already been practicing safety measures for years. Many local public schools have metal detectors and will not allow anyone in the building without a pass or an escort. Local schools also have hall monitors, some of them, especially in our city, and many schools have been upgraded with automatic locking doors once closed. Now, teacher entrances, loading docks, and janitor entrances and exits are the only soft points that may need to be assessed. Recent terrorist threats are what got this story in. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Locals look to Washington, D.C. for answers. Locals looking into D.C. Now, the goal is to get ahead in the race along with others. So they're trying to get ahead in the race along with other Ohio cities. So the race with Ohio cities, the big 3 C's, Cleveland, Columbus, and some other areas. Now, they're trying to get ahead when it comes to federal dollars. Now, one local article published June 21st says that this is the intent of Valley leaders and nonprofit agencies and private businesses who joined the Youngstown War Regional Chamber as on their way to Washington, D.C. in a race with the other big cities to get those federal dollars, as stated in the article. Now, federal spending has already accounted for most of the new construction and improvements to the downtown region and local area. The story is still developing. Story number 5. Is there a utility bill and rent storm brewing? Some customers are already voicing their concerns about slight increases in their utility bills. Landlords are also trying to find a voice in their renting and leasing concerns. The fact is that people are being put out on the street because they don't have the money to pay rent or pay for basic necessities. The utility bill and rent storm coming falls under the simple fact that some people fall behind, never to recover. Analyzing how many people have applied for energy programs and rent assistance programs is what got the story in. The city of Hubbard also made headlines after council voted for water and electric increases, which have not increased since 1989. The increase is set at 2.5% through 2027, according to one local article. The story is still developing. That's why story number 5 made it this week, because rent and bill utilities are on the radar. Big headline. Story number 6. A $12.4 million state boost. The headlines making front page news Saturday, June 18th, says that 9 projects in the valley are set to get a $12.4 million state boost. Local brownfields and 20 federal places were mentioned in the article, which mentioned a vast array of additional improvements to surrounding communities. Housing credits and asbestos removal were also mentioned, keeping the eye on more money headed this way, or in any set it for any improvements locally. That's why story number 6 almost made to the top 2 this week. We're talking money. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news story that made it this week for you. Specially handcrafted, read through, and analyzed to keep you informed. A body in a trash bag is not good news, folks. In Campbell, an investigation is underway in Campbell after a woman's body was found in 2 black plastic bags. That's not good. This is not good news in 2022, folks. That sounds like something that would happen years ago. Years ago. Local communities have witnessed an increase in cruel criminal activities relating to crimes being investigated, especially the killing of little children, 18 years to 16 years, even younger than that. That's pretty foul news, folks. The woman reportedly had bruises on her face, showing how crime and violence remains a problem locally. Now, how these events unfold over time is what has investigators busy in bringing people to justice. Seems to be the challenge in this story. That's why story number 7 made to the top 2 local headlines in developing news stories this week. Big headline. Story number 8 in the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. The top local headline and developing news story that made it in. Stay at attention for you. Generously given from the Mediator, provided, sponsored with love and affection. Story number 8. Inflation is affecting everyone, folks. That's a fact. The average cost of just about everything has increased. Gas, food, and even basic services. Inflation is affecting everyone. But what got the story in locally is the series of events that's been taking place within the price increases, folks. People been saying, put your hands up. Give me all you got. I got to pay my bills. I ain't got no money. Why you robbing me? Give me the money. Well, I ain't got no money. Oh boy, I got a felony. Well, that's what's been happening. That's it. And analysts are doing the math when it comes to COVID-19 spending also. Researchers are zooming in on if all of the money dished out to combat COVID-19 was worth anything. Because after doing the math, they're going to see if it is causing all the inflation, all that money dished out to battle COVID could be causing us to be paying for it. This story is still developing. That's why I made it to the top local headline, the developing news story this week, folks. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the meeting with me, bro.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints,
event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com.
I'm gonna schedule you back in about a week, alright? Put you on 10 milligrams. If you need any refills, you gotta let me know, alright?
I didn't become a doctor to drug people.
Give up on your dream, John. You cannot cure crazy.
But he's one of my patients.
No, patience! Well, tell him to stop coming here and robbing me!
Are you married? I see your ring. Yeah.
But all I know is I need you and you will need me.
Why don't you have your wedding photos up?
Well, I have my reasons for that.
No! You don't know anything about my patients, Kathy! You don't know anything about what these kids, these parents are going through out here. There's a jungle out here, Kathy! So stay your lane!
I don't have a chemical imbalance. I just want to go home.
Together, we can make magic.
Please don't leave me this way!
I'm gonna eat therapy after this! Who gonna check and see if I'm okay?
Hey, Doc. Don't let me down. Because those meds, they're working.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, if you would have told me years ago how this market would be, or even if it told me I would be running a television show or a business, I wouldn't have believed you. Because back then, the mentality was totally different. Everybody was trying to be superstars, but really not too much has changed. But folks, what's happening in the business world is people are trying to find jobs. They're trying to get back to work. Some people have been off the ticket. Some people are on drugs. Some people have a college degree, but they're in the food line. Folks, it is a bad out here. And to solve the problem, we not only got to start singing songs together, but we've got to start working together, because the climate in America is changing. And to reach the fullest potential, we've got to get clean of our bad habits. And that's the hardest part about mediation, is you've got to decipher the reality from the fake. You've got to look deep inside the news story and go in and grab the brains of the people and say, you've got to get it. That money ain't gonna last forever, folks. You've got to spend it for economic behavior to increase. There's not a need for free labor, but there is a need for laborers. As Jesus would say, is the fields are plenty, but the laborers are few. Hallelujah, is what the old Reverend would say. But the fact now is we've got to wake up, folks. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. To get this economy back together, we've got to think ahead. Put down the drugs. Get to work. Give up all the benefits and do what you can. World don't get no better if you just get to work. Da, 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 da. Well, folks, I'm sure you get the point. When you see a sink ship, anything sinking, it takes the people, the sailors on board, to save the ship and go into battle to save the day. We need a revival in America, folks. A revival of work, passion, and the hunger for more growth. We haven't reached the max. We've got to get back together, folks. And that's the only thing that can cure what's been happening in the news. Scary stuff, folks. Well, folks, let's get to it. Story number 1. Hazing is back in the headlines. 2 Missouri fraternity brothers have been charged with felonies after a hazing incident left a pledger. One of the pledgers, he left him blind and paralyzed. That's sad news. Now, the Fox News headlines puts fraternities back in the spotlights. The story reports on an alarming trend, putting attention back on the college culture, the American culture, period. Now, the victim and suspects were only in their 20s. That's pretty scary. The parents of the victim are in the process of a grueling lawsuit. They're now the plaintiffs against the fraternity group, once again putting hazing back on the radar. That's why story number 1 crept in this week. Big headline. Story number 2. The root of violence. 5 major cities are on pace to pass homicide rates that they set in 2021, and we're only halfway through 2022. But why is that? There are a few reasons, and most of it has to do with the sadness that comes in an angry society searching for answers and a place in the very cruel world, a very cruel world. Here are several factors: retaliation, gang wars, corruption, repeat offenders, police conflicts, and robbing the rich to feed the poor. Here are some headlines to prove it. Houston Baptist basketball standout Darius Lee was killed in a New York shooting. Here's another one. Detroit gas station video shows an armed suspect drawing a gun on a man who was holding a baby on his shoulder, and the man also had a cigarette in his hand. Legally armed Iowa's woman shoots a violent, unprovoked attacker at a grocery store. These are all stories. These are all stories in the news. Now, there are so many gears to be turned when assessing the roots of violence and what causes most of these incidents to occur. These stories are keeping the legal system very, very busy. That's why story number 2 crept in this week. Story number 3. What will voters be looking for in the next election? Recent uncertainty is leaving Americans on edge, and some polls say that voters will be looking to the economy, education, and security in the next election. Recent economic activity has left many Americans living paycheck to paycheck, and the consistent circulation of news surrounding the inflation effect has made things no better. Now, any candidate who can sell a prosperous plan filled with security and incentives for doing the right thing would definitely be a plus for either party. Now, at the moment, it looks like voters are looking to Republicans to fix what some feel are broken and flawed Democrat policies. Though this story is still developing, that's why I made it this week. Everybody's getting ready to start voting, and they're wondering what to vote for. Maybe. Story number 4. How is inflation affecting small businesses? It is really affecting small business. Most small businesses are hanging on by a thread, and economists say that some have already gone under. High prices are affecting everyone, and when businesses can't get access to capital, that's not good news, folks. Most small businesses are saying the same thing, and that is that they can't find good help, and competition is breaking them slowly. The reality is that any state that shuts down, all the states that shut down literally killed most of their small businesses, and inflation has made it almost impossible for any of them to recover. The story is still developing. It has to stay alive for small business owners to get their voices heard. Some economists and analysts have gone on the record stating that small businesses, many of them will not survive the next wave of anything if there is a recession, period. That's why story number 4 made it this week, folks. Folks, those are our top 4 headlines, international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the media. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method.inc.com. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. For you to keep you informed, some people are hitting the gym to work on their obliques. Oh yeah, their obliques. Some people are hitting the arenas to play sports. Some people, wise people in America, are hitting the books. And some people are hitting the newspapers, tuning in to Mediation to stay informed. I hope that there's some people in all these other circles will be enlightened and be informed. I have a dream that the world will be informed and know what's going on and make the right decisions. I have a dream today, folks, as a mediator. Because constantly, every week, I have to dissect and navigate the news for you. With little support, but a divine belief that I will be magnified in the glory of mediation. Mediation is tough, but somebody's got to do it. And that person who's got to do it has got to be consistent enough to read and find the stories for you. Yeah. And that's what mediation is all about. It's all about, folks. I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for the love of mediation, folks. Finding the top 8 headlines in developing news story every week to keep you informed. That's the goal, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh yeah. Business is mediation, and business is good. Let's get to it. Story number 5. The drug war has evolved, folks. A California teen has died from a fentanyl misuse. That's not good. CBP officers in Texas have arrested multiple people carrying fentanyl within their bodies. These are just 2 headlines showing how the drug war has evolved. Now, with the help of technology, dealers are stationed in just about every community, making it near impossible to eliminate the damage done in the war on drugs. The list of people affected by the war on drugs is big. Families have literally been destroyed, lives have been lost, and the crisis is real. Accounting for birth defects and a madhouse of unusual incidents, sending a ripple effect of current tragic events. The story is still developing, and that's why I made it in this week. Big headline. Story number 6. Is America at a tipping point? Big question. Most of the country is divided, folks. Broke, changing jobs, and some living paycheck to paycheck. If America is at a tipping point, there's a series of events that led to it. First, you had the Trump effect. Trump's plan to isolate America without 2 terms made it very hard to achieve, because literally his whole movement literally got shut down, never to manifest with the election of Joe Biden. So nobody ever knows how it would have turned out. They only got the last end of it. Second, you had the COVID-19 effect that literally crippled the economy and left a huge bill for everyone to pay. Now you have inflation and the energy war, which is pricing everyone out of usual enjoyments. Now, if America is at a tipping point, it will take everyone to be on the same page to recover, which at the moment seems to be impossible. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. We got to get it together. We got to get on the same page, and we got to get it together. Make me hit. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. All I have to give is a story for the world to analyze and to realize that something new is brewing in mediation, and that's a shift to the right, to the left, staying in the middle to neutralize and positivize, if that's a word, the atmosphere, charging the atmosphere. Story number 7, energy is a top concern, folks. Speaking of charging, this story is unique because of time being lost. There are also a lot of angles and research that need to be done in the story to separate fact from fiction. When we say time being lost, that means who wouldn't have known if they wouldn't have stopped most of the energy production that was in the past administrations till now. Now, what we do have is audio and proof that the Biden administration is attacking the fossil fuel industry. That's a fact. He stated this fact in his debate against Trump, the audio debates, the video debates. Now the debate is about if Biden's policies have been causing the current energy crisis, and people want answers, because this energy crisis is brewing. Now, if energy costs continue to rise, this could be bad news for Democrats running on green policies. There's a lot of them. Some analysts don't feel it's Biden's fault, but when a president goes on the record attacking fossil fuels and most of his party being green gurus, the proof could be obvious. That means it's not adding up. Now, this story is still developing. That's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week, because energy is big and we need that charge to keep our lives going. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Folks, I'd like to call a board meeting today, and the discussion is about money. We've got to get on our P's and Q's and go out and find the money. And if we ain't printing it, we got to get it from the government. Money! Even when you're sick. Money! Even when you're dying. Money! Even when you're living. Everybody needs money. Story number 8. Money. Story number 8. Investors, the markets, and why everybody is talking money. Money. Here are a few headlines putting attention on the markets, folks. Texas adds 74,000 jobs in May as unemployment rates decrease by 4.2%. According to Dallas Morning News, that's according to Dallas Morning News. Fox Business reports that the White House is considering sending gas rebate cards to Americans. Market Watch reports that stock market investors are nervous that earnings about their earnings and recessions. They're nervous about a recession being on the way, and they say it may be looming. Fox News reports that inflation rocks businesses as owners warn Americans about cutting business owners are warning investors that Americans are cutting their home improvement, and in the process is equating to less spending. That means that people don't have enough money to spend at the small businesses, and they're starting to speak out. Axios reports that child care subsidies would send 1.2 million women into the workforce, and the last headline by Market Watch says that U.S. unemployment claims have stayed at nearly 5-month high, and layoffs are rising. So there's two sides going on the story. In some states are seeing people getting hired, but in some states you're still looking for help, and some states are still on their knees praying for some type of price relief. So this is all taking place, and it's happening fast. Now, these stories show how and why everybody is talking money, and Russia isn't making it any better. So you think that we get it by now, but right now everybody is in their own little world, and money is a big factor. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines, the media. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator, the man in the middle. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 more stories just for you to keep you informed. Thank you so much for tuning to the media this week. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the media with me, Brother West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.